What if you had instant analytics on your PDP images and a faster way to create content that performs better? That's what we're diving into in today's episode, how top brands and retailers are using analytics and automation to stay ahead across retail media and the digital shelf. It's Rapid helps teams scale smarter. They analyze image performance, they help you create optimized assets for retail media networks and the digital shelf, and they integrate directly with PIM and DAM systems for seamless execution. Brands like Pepsi, Mondelez, and Instacart use its Rapid to go beyond basic tools to uncover gaps in PDP and retail media performance by analyzing the images themselves, not just the count. Streamline banner creation across hundreds of formats for Amazon Ads, Walmart Connect, and other retail and social platforms, and launch high-performing content more than 80% faster across e-commerce and marketing channels. If you're buried in manual work or struggling to keep up, this episode and It's Rapid will show you a better way. Visit itsrapid.ai to learn more.
Welcome to Beyond the Shelf with Dave Feinlieb. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. We publish new episodes every Tuesday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Dave Feinlieb.
Welcome back to Beyond the Shelf. Today we're joined by Richard Gilbert, Head of Retail Partnerships at Worldpay. Richard has spent the last decade shaping the future of commerce through innovative payment solutions, most recently at PayPal and now at Worldpay, where he's helping define what next-gen retail partnerships look like. He's seen firsthand how the checkout experience is evolving, from frictionless payments to smarter loyalty integration, and he's passionate about turning payment moments into brand-building opportunities. In today's conversation, we'll explore how Richard approaches creative partnerships, the role of payment, UX, and retail storytelling, and what retailers should be thinking about as shopper expectations shift. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
First off, take us back. How'd you get your start in the space?
Yeah, so probably just over 12 years ago, I was recruited to run strategic partnerships for a SaaS-based small business CRM solution. That small business CRM solution had landing pages with an e-commerce checkout. And I also noted that there were about 24 gateways hanging off of it. That little engine that could, though, was doing about 4 to 5 billion in TPV annually, which was quite significant. And so working with the CEO, I developed a more payments-oriented strategy, first by rationalizing a lot of the gateways that were on there down to like a dozen. And then more importantly, partnering with a PayFac to build our own payment strategy as well. So it's very similar, sort of a shop pay type of solution.
For some of our listeners who may not be as well versed in the payment space as you, will you just give us payments 101, TPV, payment gateways? What do all those things mean?
TPV is total processing volume. It's another word for online sales or GMV. But in the payments world, that's how we measure, volume is through the amount processed.
Got it.
As a merchant processor, we basically work with merchants. We onboard merchants and provide the merchant processing for them. We have an underlying sponsor bank, an acquiring bank that supports the merchant processing. When a transaction happens and it gets capped, the funds get captured, merchants will see those funds in their bank account the next day.
Got it. So a way to sort of connect the dots, if you will, in the payment workflows. So you started out there. How was the experience?
It was an amazing experience. I knew nothing of payments. A lot of my experience was really much more around sort of SaaS-based models and just MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and working in the payment space and just exposed to a whole new business model, which was transaction based. To me, was just remarkable. And then beyond that, especially as we start moving more and more into this sort of API economy, the ability to be able to develop integrations and allow those integrations to effectively scale your TPV opportunities really, to me, was strategically most interesting.
So recently we saw this announcement about instant checkout. And part of that was talk about open APIs. Maybe without, I know that's very fresh, but will you talk to us just generally speaking, where do APIs fit in? What do they let us do when it comes to shopping writ large and payments in general?
Sure. Well, I mean, the essence of APIs really is the ability to facilitate data flow between two different platforms.
Okay.
That data can be product information, pricing information, or it can even be tokenized credit cards or customer information. So, um, the importance of the API itself and the ability to be able to develop these integrations to facilitate these transactions is vital. And you talk about instant checkout or the ability to be able to do one-click checkouts. These are all things that have been enabled by companies like ourselves who utilize, I'll use another term, tokenization, where we tokenize the information about the customer, including their credit card information, effectively providing a secure layer to allow for a merchant to immediately recognize either a returning customer or a customer that is part of a network that has been tokenized to facilitate an instant checkout.
Wonderful. What is a token? Let's start there.
So it's a technology layer more than anything else, and it's basically a way for a company like ourselves to guard against making the credit card information or any personal information available out in the ether. And that's effectively what we're doing. And it's it's funny. Some people sort of ask me, what are some of the most sort of unrecognizable or tech things that are just sort of out there that you think are really, really important. To me, tokenization, as simple as it is, this concept is it's an important building block to enabling all sorts of transactions, whether it's credit card transactions, whether it's ACH transactions or bank transfer. The ability to tokenize, even frankly, the ability for you to have contactless payments with your digital wallets, with your Apple Pay, Google Pay, is all based off of the advent of tokenization.
All right, so we've got the basics. Talk to us about partnerships. You kind of made your way over to the partnership side of the house. Tell us a little about that.
So that to me is really what I love the most about my job. I love working with partners because in essence, and the type of partnerships that I work on are what I would call channel partner relationships. So these are partnerships whereby we work together with partners to drive, in my case, merchant referrals. There are lots of other partnerships as well. There are product partnerships, but to me, a channel partner relationship is vital. It's a way in which we're able to drive more leads to our sales teams to acquire more merchants. And it involves a couple of different elements. First, it involves just sort of making sure that we have a matching ICP with our partner. We at Worldpay focus on enterprise merchants, and so obviously we want to work with partners and partner platforms that also target that same ICP, enterprise merchants. And then thinking about the various types of merchants that are out there, whether they're B2B merchants or B2C merchants, or even marketplaces as another form of merchant. All of these types of merchants rely on platforms, and it's my team's job to work with these various platforms and try to drive merchants towards Worldpay.
What makes for a good partnership?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. For me, I think the most important thing in a partnership, first and foremost, is making sure that there's high levels of engagement on both sides. And engagement is a variety of different things. It's making sure that we're communicating, working together. That there's an agreement in place with aligned incentives, and that we have an overall go-to-market approach together. Whether it's working together at events, whether it's developing case studies or white papers, developing things together in a co-branded sense, to me, are all different forms and ways in which I measure engagement. There are lots of companies I could partner with, and I prioritize my partnerships based off that engagement.
One other question on partnership models. You have some companies that do, let's say, very curated partnerships, and then you have sort of the marketplace model, I'll call it. How do you think about those two different approaches, or are they just similar versions of the same thing?
No, they're very different. Again, I hearken back to my concept around engagement. In a marketplace type of partnership, there it's more of a static partnership. It's you have a tile in the marketplace, and you try to do things to raise your profile, but you may not necessarily have the high degree of engagement and activity that you would in a more curated partnership. So I tend to err more towards more highly curated, where I can work in a more creative fashion with my partner.
Yeah.
And a lot of that really means, it's not just simply just sort of shake hands, sign a contract, and let's go. It's really trying to identify, what are some of the pain points the partner is trying to solve for, in this case, payments.
Right.
And based off of our mutual focus on this ICP, this type of merchant, how can we solve for those pain points? So it might be something as simple as being able to help a shopping platform really solve for a BOPIS transaction, a buy online, pick up in store. That is actually a very complicated transaction. You're basically the consumer is on the website. They want to buy something. They want to pick it up in the store. The merchant is highly motivated to get them in the store to drive foot traffic, but that means they need to be able to look at their ERP, make sure that the inventory is in that store. When the funds are authorized on the online transaction, somehow that inventory is secured and not sold.
Right.
It involves a lot of different components, and payments plays a very important role there. And that's something that, I work very closely with some of my partners on, as an example.
This episode of Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Mondelez, Instacart, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai.
So great. We never want to get there and then find out the item's not there. So 100%. Tell us about Worldpay. A little about the company and your kind of day to day.
Yeah, Worldpay is it's actually a fairly large company. We were the largest merchant processing in terms of transactions in Europe in 2024. Corporate headquarters are in Cincinnati, but we have a very large presence in London and the UK. Worldpay was actually acquired by Vantiv, a U.S. card present company, POS company, that basically took on the Worldpay name. And that was back, I think, in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2016. And then since then, Worldpay has continued to grow. It's had a couple of other acquisitions. One was an acquisition that ended up getting undone. It was with FIS. Of late, Worldpay has been an independent company, supported by private equity. And most recently, in April of this year, we announced our intention to merge with Global Payments. Worldpay has sort of three main core businesses. They have the enterprise business, which I'm a part of. We have an SMB business, and then we also have a platforms business.
And platforms seem like they would be a part of those other initiatives. How does that differ from the kind of enterprise and SMB part of things?
Yeah, so we focus principally on working with merchants directly. The platforms business works with platforms that wish to be, where we have a payfac model where we're able to effectively provide a white label payment solution for that particular platform.
Okay.
Think of what Shopify has with Stripe, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Makes total sense. Now, help us connect the dots. We talked a little about payments, talked a little about retail. Put those together for us, if you would.
When we think more around payments and what payments is, it's got two really core elements to it. There's the sort of the B2C model, which is traditional e-commerce working with merchants, and the area that I'm actually most excited about and quite bullish on is B2B and B2B payments. And what I think is so interesting here is that when you think about B2C, it's your traditional sort of checkout. You find an item, put it into your shopping cart, and buy now. And that's your classic sort of checkout. And from a payments perspective, it's an authorize and then capture. Authorize the funds that the credit card is good, and then capture the funds once fulfillment has happened, once the item has been shipped by the e-commerce company. In the B2B world, the flow is completely different. You're really talking more around an e-procurement flow as opposed to an e-commerce checkout flow. So here, a supplier is a B2B merchant. They will, offer, a whole bunch of capabilities and things to buy. Typically, the buyer will have to log in to their specific experience because each buyer is going to have their own, unique price list for the thousands of SKUs that they'll have access to. Once they purchase, they'll go through a punch out, or once they select their items, they'll go through a punch out process. That punch out process will create a quote. And then once they accept the quote, they'll be invoiced, and they'll typically get invoiced upon shipment. So this is what I would call more of an invoice driven flow versus a checkout flow. And an invoice driven flow is interesting because it might be initiated by the e-commerce component, or it might be initiated by the ERP component where the accounts receivable is. And so identifying, where that transaction is initiated, and then making sure that we have the payment solutions to support that are vital. And the payment solutions are different. They certainly can support credit card, but if some of these invoices are in, the six figures, hundreds of thousands of dollars, that would be a very expensive credit card transactions. We need to be able to support bank transfer or e-check or other types of capabilities to facilitate that digital payment.
Okay, so we've got B2C, we've got B2B. You got the right pieces coming together. No discussion in this space is complete these days without some mention of AI, of course. Where does that fit into this whole workflow?
Sure. So on the B2C side, let's start there. So just from a practicality standpoint, there are things that Worldpay is doing today to enhance our already amazing fraud tools that we have. And so when you think about what AI can do, it can basically look at lots of data very, very quickly and make fraud decisioning solutions for us. So we're incorporating that into some of our tools like FraudSight that we have today. There's also on the B2C side, there's a lot of conversation around agentic commerce. That's really more where the LLMs are really getting more involved in providing the entire experience for an individual that wants to buy something.
Right.
I think we're still in the very early innings there. There's a lot of conversations with a lot of different payment providers, shopping platforms, as well as the LLMs. They all seem to be developing slightly different approaches. How and when and where that transaction occurs at the LLM sort of instance is really yet to be determined. But the idea is that during that session, that effectively a customer could effectively buy that product through the LLM. questions in my mind around, where does the LLM get various forms of data, like, shipping data or tax information or pricing information. They all come from different components,
Right.
or possibly maybe from the shopping cart directly that's integrated with the merchant. So a lot of this really, in my view, is whether it's merchant initiated or LLM initiated is
Yeah.
really the function. The last comment I'll make on AI is on the B2B side. There, I think we have some really amazing and tremendous opportunities for efficiencies and opportunities to really drive, enhanced cash flow for B2B. If you think about it, if for any of these manufacturers or distributors that are moving from sort of this old world EDI realm where, an order is faxed and then an invoice is mailed and then a check is written. I mean, you're talking about an opportunity here to digitizing that entire experience that we talked about earlier, and then providing an overlay with digital payments. The opportunity for reducing days outstanding and increasing cash flow are really amazing. I believe AI can also be a part of that if AI were more, and it probably will be, more integrated into the accounts receivable solution to basically, either flag or drive, invoice driven flows automatically, 1 or 2 or 3 days before that invoice is due.
Love it. So we can get paid faster. That's the punchline.
Ultimately, yeah. Ultimately,
Yeah.
it's how do we get money? How do we get paid faster and speed to cash?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is great. So we covered a lot of great areas. What else what are you seeing in your conversations with either customers or partners? I think everyone wants to know, where's everyone else in their adoption of AI? Any kind of read for us on where we are in that cycle?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a bunch of announcements. I think Stripe's made a few announcements with ChatGPT or OpenAI. I would sort of harken back to the fact that I don't think these LLMs have really all sort of come up with a standard, if you will. And I think that we're still in the very early days. At some point, there's going to be a need for marrying, the power of what these LLMs can do, the data that they can obtain, helping provide the decisioning for the consumer, as well as, on our end, the tokenization of these transactions to support sort of a seamless one-click checkout solution through an LLM, experience.
So a way to really bring everything together. Lots of opportunity, lots of activity in the space. Richard, I've got a section for you called our rapid rundown. It's a few fast-paced questions, your quick thoughts. First off, your view on the most underrated innovation in payments.
Yeah, I mentioned it before, but I think tokenization is it. I think it's simple, but it's so critical because it enables so many other features like recurring payments or one-click payments or digital wallets or even contactless. So I would definitely go with tokenization.
A retail experience that made you say they nailed the checkout.
I really like what Walmart.com is doing. I think they've really figured out the BOPIS Boris transaction. I've used them over and over again. There's a Walmart, I would say about 15 miles away from me, so it's a little bit of a schlep to get to. But I like just experience, as a payments geek, I like experiencing how Walmart creates that payments experience.
One creative partner or brand you'd love to collaborate with.
I don't really have. I mean, to me, I was thinking about this question a lot, and I don't really have anyone that I really do want to. To me, I want to be able to collaborate with partners that want to engage with me, and so there isn't any one given partner out there. I'm focused on partnering with as many that want to partner with me.
Can't choose between the favorites, of course. So, a favorite tool or resource to stay sharp on commerce trends.
So again, I don't have any one. I will say that I have been using ChatGPT quite a bit, and that to me has been really interesting. I try to teach my kids or tell my kids, hey guys, you got to learn to embrace the ChatGPT or others and build skills around prompting. And so on a daily basis in the morning, I'll sort of write up a prompt and just sort of, shoot it through to sort of see what I can learn.
After a long day talking strategy, developing new partnerships, what's your go-to way to reset?
For me, it's golf. I find golf allows me, first of all, I'm not a great golfer, but I have been improving my score over the summer. I find that you need to focus on every shot. And if you don't focus on every shot, you're going to screw something up. And so, and I still screw it up, but I find that it requires such concentration that it allows me to just not think about work or think about strategy.
It really does focus the mind. Well, this has been great. Covered a lot of great areas, super interesting. I think payments is highly relevant as much now as ever before. So we really appreciate you coming on the show. What's the best way for our listeners to reach you?
Yeah, it's my name, Richard.Gilbert at worldpay.com.
Richard, thanks so much. And hopefully you'll come back to Beyond the Shelf.
Love to. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Shelf. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow. And feel free to share us with your colleagues so they too can hear weekly perspectives from the brightest minds in e-commerce. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, where we post clips from each episode, share Dave's takes on breaking industry news, and much more. Beyond the Shelf is a production of It's Rapid. Our host is Dave Feinlieb, and our producers are Sean Levy-Ashvili and Jake Musiker. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.